A mysterious force descends upon the earth, creating a world of terror and fear. While on a bus that goes off the road, he dies along with other classmates, and then finds himself in a mysterious place where Chin Nuo discovers that he can receive systemic rewards by manipulating the emotions of ghosts on both sides. What's more, after going through all the steps, he can create his own industry in this spooky world. The exciting global thriller game Arrival is about to celebrate its second anniversary. The news reported that during the latest run, a player named Jin successfully completed 10 level D and 2 level C quests. He also received 3 horror level items and made a contract with a ghost, allowing him to join the ranks of ghost controllers. In this game, adult participants will have the opportunity to immerse themselves in the world of horror and take part in a thrilling challenge. Players who successfully complete the dungeons successfully receive generous rewards. Those who failed, on the other hand, will pay a high price for it. According to news reports, this is the 13th controller that the country has contracted after completing the trials. A group of students and their teachers were traveling by bus to a particular place, and a young boy wondered about the ghost controller. His classmates said he was very jealous of them and didn't understand how they were able to accomplish the mission in such terrible conditions. He suggested that if he had been in their shoes, he didn't think his legs would have been able to withstand such a thing. Then his friend explained to him that these men were very strong in spirit. For them, money and rewards are more important than their own lives, so you shouldn't compare yourself to them. The girl with black hair said that they were almost there. After all, everyone who turned 18 will have to take part in the test, and she's scared to even think about it. But the guy with the unusual haircut decided they had nothing to fear. Last year, the rookie had completed 3 F-level tasks and received an award. However, a rich man then decided to purchase the reward for 100 million. Therefore, he thought that if they worked hard, they wouldn't have to worry about the future. However, the girl disagreed with him and called him naive. She explained that 50 people participated in the trial, but only 20 came back alive. Furthermore, she said that the guy only got his award because he got an easy task, and the best a rookie can usually hope for is to come back alive. In such a situation, the teacher asked the students not to be afraid. She explained that last year the death rate was high, but now it has decreased. The teacher explained that a special defense mechanism has been developed for newcomers to the game. When this mechanism is activated, even if you die in the game, you can safely return to the real world. One of the students, with a cool hairstyle, supported the teacher. He said that last month, 2 groups of newcomers participated in the challenge, and almost all of them came back alive. Some were even able to complete the missions. However, another student with black hair thought it was pointless because people had died anyway. Shortly after the trip, a young man with a patch on his forehead suggested that Jin Nuo register for the game. He explained that if they didn't register themselves, it could be done for them forcibly. But what was forcibly entering the game? There are 2 ways to start playing: voluntary registration and forced registration. When registration is voluntary, the government helps set up a protection mechanism. This means that when you play the game, you will have the opportunity to return to the real world in one piece. However, if for some reason you are forced into the game, you will not only lose your defense mechanism, but you will also face the same treatment as professional players. And once you die, you will no longer have the option to return to the game. In other words, even a low-ranked player can be a battle royal. Jin Nuo then asked his friend not to worry and promised that he would sign up as soon as he was free. The guy with glasses asked his friend if there were any leads in the case of his parents' disappearance. The young man explained that his parents had disappeared a year ago under mysterious circumstances. He speculated that they may have been forcibly drawn into the game, but the police investigation found no evidence that they had become involved. This year, all the young man's efforts to discover the whereabouts of his parents were fruitless. Had it not been for the persistence of his sister, he would have dropped out of school long ago. The young man was desperate. For a whole year he had no idea what was going on, and he did not know what to do, even if his parents were involved in this game. Suddenly something terrible happened. The bus skidded on the road. The students did not understand why it was so dark. They asked the teacher if he was all right. He answered in the negative, and then blood came out of his mouth and nose. The teacher lost control of the bus, and it sped towards the river, destroying the fence in its path. Police soon arrived at the scene. The police officers proceeded to examine the bus. One of the officers explained to the captain that they had thoroughly searched the bus, but it was empty. The captain was surprised and could not understand how this could have happened. The police officer then explained that they had only managed to find 2 bodies, and the fate of the other 45 students remained unknown. At that moment, something strange happened. One by one, they began to sink into the water. And afterward, a young man woke up in some frightening and incomprehensible place. The disciples were confused. They did not understand where they had gotten to. One of the students, having seen the scary gargoyle statue, even wanted to return home. But soon they saw something incomprehensible ahead. It was a doll that greeted the new players. She informed them that they had gotten into the game, and now she would familiarize them with the rules. To begin with, all of them will be transferred to the location corresponding to the theme of the game. Each of them will provide services to clients according to their assigned profession. Clients are gods, and they must not be mistreated. Otherwise, they can take away something valuable from them, such as eyeballs, tongue, or even life. The game will last for 7 days. It is important for the students to maintain a good relationship with the customers. When they start their assignments, they will need to do their best to successfully complete the game. At the end of the game, rewards will be distributed based on analyzing the tasks completed and time spent. The theme of today's game is Yin Quan Restaurant. Having said that, the doll disappeared, leaving the students in awe. At this moment, the young man realized that they were now all forced to participate in the game. Soon, the students began to teleport to another place, and the young man found himself in a warehouse. There was a horrible smell, so he covered his nose to keep from passing out. The doll that suddenly appeared reminded the young man that the restaurant was about to open. She asked him to find his work clothes as soon as possible. The boy was surprised because he had never seen the doll in this place before. He wondered if he should always wear work clothes. The doll explained that it was important to wear work clothes neatly so as not to give the impression of a sloppy waiter, which could negatively affect the reputation of the place. She also strongly advised against going to the upper floors without proper training and confidence, as something dangerous could be lurking there. She also noted that dealing with guests upstairs is very difficult, and if they are not taken care of properly, they may go elsewhere, with serious consequences. However, she explained that while the restaurant considers its customers to be special, some of them may behave inappropriately, thus damaging the reputation of the establishment. In such cases, the player was allowed to teach them a lesson accordingly. The young man didn't understand anything. Couldn't he get into trouble because of this? But the doll just disappeared without giving an answer. He realized that it was dangerous here. Nevertheless, he decided that he needed to find some work clothes. Going through the things in his closet looking for work uniforms, he thought that the immersion game must be no nonsense, and now he was playing the role of a waiter. But if he had to wear this all the time, he'd go crazy. Soon the young man put on the waiter's work uniform and opened the information panel. This player's name was Jin Nuo. His strength was 20 points, his speed was 30 points, and his ghost strength was 0. There was a dash in the ghost column. Jin Nuo's skills were called Devil Eye, Angel Eye, and Eye of Analysis. His rating was 1 out of 10. Soon, the young man was surprised by something. Aside from the ghostly power and objects, he didn't understand where the other stats came from. He didn't remember there being anything like this before, so he assumed that the panel had updated. In that case, he decided to take a closer look at his skills. The devil's eye absorbs negative emotions, such as anger, and can give random rewards in return. The size of these rewards depends on the strength of the emotion. Devil's eye is also included in the beginner's gift set. Angel's eye, on the other hand, absorbs positive emotions, such as favor, and can give random rewards as well. The size of these rewards also depends on the strength of the emotion. Angel's eye is also included in the beginner's gift set, and the Eye of Analysis helps you anticipate the thoughts and analyze the ghost's goals. It is also included in the rookie gift set. With these abilities, the young man finally realized that he could gain random rewards by affecting the ghost's mood. So he thought that what was happening was like a survival computer game, and he decided that this was his chance. When he realized everything to the end, he decided it was time to act, so he went to the hall to get ready. Soon, he saw his classmate Lee Si-nua walking towards him, pushing a drink cart in front of him. He wanted to ask if she was also working as a waitress, but the girl just walked past. This puzzled the young man, because he didn't understand why she ignored him. But as he looked back, he saw something terrible, and then he realized that the ghosts had already appeared, which meant that the game had begun. Time was running out, and Jin decided that it would be best to go to the hall and prepare. He headed there with a confident gait and saw his classmates, Liu Jiaqi and Wang Yang. Liu Jiaqi assumed that the three of them had been assigned to work in the third hall. Jin wondered if all the students had become waiters, but Liu Jiaqi replied that in addition to waiters, there were people who greeted guests, cashiers, cleaners, and chefs. There were 5 main positions for their class, and now the 3 of them had become waiters in charge of distributing menus and dishes. Wang Yang looked at his classmate and thought she was naive. He knew that there was no reward for kindness. Wang Yang was sure that Liu Jiaqi would explain everything to Jin now, and the next time he had difficulties, he would run straight to her. Soon the bell rang, and everyone in the hall turned toward the entrance. The girl became nervous, after all. They were already on their way. Jin remained calm, and Wang Yang told his classmate to shut up. And now that everyone was gathered, Yinquan Restaurant was officially open. Immediately, various monsters rushed in, eager to taste something delicious. The Trinity was terribly frightened, but Jin took charge of the situation and welcomed the new guests. Soon, the guests were taking their seats. There were a lot of monsters, and they were all different. Some looked like slime, and some looked like humans. However, the girl declared that it wasn't that scary. But suddenly a monster appeared behind her, calling the girl a mouse because she was blocking his way. At that moment, the students apologized and did not interfere with the visitor in the passageway. The girl was completely terrified, but Wang Yang asked her to be quiet and not cause trouble. At this moment, Jin opened the information panel and decided to see what they should do next. The system reported that Jin Nuo had to serve the guest at table 4. It was necessary to do his job well and get a satisfactory grade. If Jin Nuo could handle 3 orders, it would allow him to complete the F-level assignment. For completing the assignment, he could get one of 5 grades: terrible, unsatisfactory, average, satisfactory, or very good. Satisfactory and very good grades were rewarded randomly, while terrible and unsatisfactory grades were punished. Soon, Wang Yang reported that he was sent to table 10. Jiaqi was sent to table 6, and Jin said that his table was table 4 and wished everyone good luck. After a while, Jin was already standing at the 4th table, where a horrible bandaged monster with green hair was sitting. The young man asked the dear guest what he wanted. The monster guest pointed to the menu and informed him that he wanted braised human brain goo. Brain. Oh my God, I think our guy is going to throw up, Jin thought to himself. But he took the order anyway and informed the guest to wait. The waiting girl noticed that her classmate was somehow not afraid at all. Her musings were interrupted by a lizard-like monster who asked her what she was doing. He also called her a mouse. In response, the girl apologized and accepted his order. When Jin took the order, He went to the kitchen where he saw many human and non-human corpses lying on the floor. The cook was cutting meat at this time. Approaching the cook, Jin apologized to him and told him that the guest at table 4 had ordered stewed human brain goo. However, the cook informed him that the brain had run out, at which point he took a cleaver and held it to Jin's head. The young man tensed up a bit, but then pulled himself together and asked the cook to hurry up. The cook looked at him with his beautiful but terrible eyes and agreed to prepare the dish. When the dish was ready, the cook smiled. Jin noticed this and realized that something was wrong. He concentrated and activated his analyzing eye. The analysis eye reported, "Unfortunately, the cook couldn't wait for his girlfriend to return. Therefore, he met an agonizing death, and now human skin disgusts him. It awakens painful memories in him, and if the eye of analysis is telling the truth, Jin didn't understand why the cook added pieces of skin to the dish. Could it be that the chef had done it on purpose to frame the young man? The young man didn't know what to do. If he took this dish to the guest, the ghost in bandages would definitely kill him. So Jin decided to activate his eye of analysis once more. The eye of analysis reported that this chef liked to play jokes on people when he was alive. Even after his death, he had 5 times added ingredients to dishes that the guests didn't like. If he had been caught, the chef's boss would have torn him apart. But since no one knew about his pranks, the chef continued to mock the visitors. At that moment, Jin realized what the matter was. He asked the cook if there was anything else in the dish. The cook began to get indignant, calling Jin a lowly man who questioned his food and even suggested that Jin was sick of living. But the young man was not frightened. He informed the cook that he knew this was the 5th time he had spoiled his food, so he was curious. Jin wondered how his boss would react if he told him everything. No, he had another idea, though. He would just tell everything to that guest. I wonder how the much-revered ghost in bandages would react. The cook didn't understand what kind of nonsense this guy was talking about, and besides, he had no proof. But Jin countered that he had proof: the braised brain. After all, only a cook could put human skin in this dish. At that moment, the cook realized that the young man really knew everything, and Jin confirmed his words. So the young man suggested that the young man remake the dish, for otherwise his boss would tear it to pieces, and the cook immediately began to remake the dish. Jin threatened the cook that if he dared to make such a dish again, he would be on the dinner table. The cook was frightened and went to the hall to hand the dish to the guest. Coming out of the kitchen, Jin actually felt fear. He was angry at the cook and simply cursed at him. Soon, the young man activated the devil's eye, and the system informed him that he had successfully harassed the chef's ghost and obtained the 3 red dragons item. The young man was curious to know what this item was, so he decided to open the information panel. According to the system, it sounded majestic. When he looked at the item, he discovered that it was a pad. Jin thought that the system was mocking him. After all, this was the worst reward possible. He doubted that this item could have any effect on the ghosts. Despite that, Jin still reached the 4th table and handed the long-awaited dish to the dear guest. The ghost began to eat the brains greedily, thinking that the food was very tasty. With each bite, the ghost changed, and Jin noticed it. He asked what happened to the guest. Jin thought it was that cook's tricks again. Soon, the ghost finished his meal and lowered his head, saying that he was obviously already dead. But nevertheless, he kept waiting for his girlfriend to find him. Emitting bloody tears from his eyes, he was able to savor the taste of memories for the first time in a long time. At this moment, the ghost held out a gold bill to Jin. The young man thought that the ghost wanted to tip him, so he took the bill and thanked him for it. He said that he hoped the dear guest was able to enjoy the meal. Jin thought that this ghost must be rich. Opening the information panel, the system congratulated the young man for successfully completing the first order. At this moment, the customer's evaluation was satisfactory. Since the order was completed, the system asked the young man to proceed to table number 2 for the next order. Then the mission for the day would be accomplished. After a while, Liu Jiaqi, carrying eyeballs on a tray, noticed Jin. She asked if he had finished serving the first table. The young man replied in the affirmative and said that he was heading to the second table. Jin asked Liu Jiaqi how she was doing. The girl replied that, more or less, but she made a mistake due to excitement, but luckily the guest didn't pick on her. The young man thought that due to fear, his classmate was having a hard time right now. Soon, Liu Jiaqi reported that something terrible had happened to Wang Yang. While handing out food, he carelessly touched the guest's back with his hand, whereupon he immediately stripped Wang Yang of his hand. Jin couldn't believe that this had happened to his classmate and thought he was very lucky. But then he asked if the girl knew where Tang Ming had been assigned to. Liu Jiaqi replied that she didn't know that, but when she met Liu Lingling, the latter said that Tang Ming seemed to have been assigned as a janitor in the central section. However, the girl had heard that being a janitor was even more dangerous than being a waiter. After hearing everything he wanted to, Jin did not delay Liu Jiaqi any further. But he thought about how the situation his friend had gotten into was even more dangerous. Soon, the young man started serving dishes to the tables. At table number 2, he received a rating of acceptable. At table 3, where there was the ghost of some huge bird, the grade was satisfactory. Anyway, Jin fulfilled all his orders and avoided negative evaluations. He believed that if he didn't overexert himself, there would be no mistakes. After all, negative evaluations were nothing compared to the risk of losing one's life. Thinking back to the people he knew, Jin didn't feel overly stressed, unlike them. He didn't realize if it had been like this since birth, or if it had happened recently. Either way, he had no recollection of his memories. All he could remember was his older sister and the disappearance of his parents. Back in the lobby, Jin saw Liu Jiaqi and Wang Yang there, who was holding onto his wound. That creature had taken his arm and pulled him into its belly. Jin tried to cheer up his classmate, saying that at least it was painless for him. Otherwise, Wang Yang might have died from painful shock. Wang Yang didn't understand why Jin was fine. Jin replied that he was just good enough. These words made Wang Yang angry, and he wanted to say something offensive, but he was interrupted by a voice behind him. It was the voice of a puppet that greeted the new employees of the restaurant. Turning around, the students saw that it was the restaurant manager. He praised them, saying that they had performed well today and everyone had survived. The supervisor was very pleased with the performance of employee number 3697. He gave the best performance. He received 2 satisfactory and 1 acceptable rating, for which he was recognized as the best employee of the first day. His award for the day amounted to 300 cursed coins. Employee number 3472 also received 1 satisfactory and 2 acceptable ratings. His award totaled 100 coins. Employee number 3992 received 2 ratings of acceptable and 1 negative rating. His award amounted to 20 coins. The supervisor praised all the employees for their good work. Since the workday was over, he decided to send the employees to rest, because tomorrow would be a new day. He hoped that they would continue to work hard tomorrow. Then he turned around with a horrified look and said, "If, of course, tomorrow comes for them." Liu Jiaqi said that she was very hungry. Then Jin pointed her to a vending machine. When they got there, they were shocked. The vending machine that they were used to seeing every day was completely different from this one. However, Liu Jiaqi was still surprised to find beef jerky, galettes, and Coke in the vending machine. Each of them made a purchase, but what they received was terrible. Instead of beef jerky, Jin received a piece of rotten meat, and Wang Yang only received a small piece of bread and thought it was some kind of cheating. Jin was not satisfied. He inserted a bill of 100 coins, but the machine only returned 20 coins to him. He didn't understand why this happened. After all, the price was listed at 50 coins, and they took away an extra 30 coins from him. The same thing happened to the girl, only she was taken away 20 coins. Wang Yang did not tolerate this cheating and kicked the vending machine. This infuriated the vending machine, who was furious that someone dared to raise his voice at him. Wang Yang fell to the ground in surprise because he had never thought that the food vending machine could be alive. Jin stated that he and his friends were employees of the restaurant and they had earned the money honestly. Therefore, he doesn't understand why they are being treated like this. In response, the automaton told the guys to be happy that they had food. After all, those rats who came here before were even begging to be given food. So the automaton didn't understand what else those rats wanted from him, and then ordered the children to leave and bring more money and less talk next time. The girl didn't know whether to argue with this automaton, but Jin decided that it didn't matter anymore and told her to leave. Turning around, Jin promised himself that when he gained strength, he would make this machine compensate for the food it appropriated today. Soon the boys arrived at the staff dormitory. They were greeted by a strange monster at the front desk. Jin explained that they were working in a restaurant. The commandant of the dormitory, giving the young man the keys, warned that it was not allowed to go outside after 12 o'clock. In case of violation, no one would be held responsible for the possible consequences. After a while, the guys went up to the 4th floor. Looking deep into the corridor, Jin guessed that there were more than 100 rooms. Probably the rest of the classmates are also here. In fact, he would be curious to know where his friend Tang Ming was right now. When the guys got to their room, they could smell a horrible stench. There was only one bed in the room, which seemed too small for 3 people. Jin suggested Liu Jiaqi to sleep on the floor. Wang Yang, who had already settled down on the bed, didn't pay any attention to it. Liu Jiaqi decided to go to the bathroom. When she opened the faucet in the sink, she found that the water didn't work. She had to settle for a towel to wipe off her sweat. While she was trying to clean herself up, Wang Yang noticed that Jin had food and asked to borrow a piece until tomorrow. However, Jin replied that he didn't have much food left. Wang Yang was not pleased. He believed that classmates who were in a difficult situation should help each other. He asked Jin not to be so ungrateful, but Jin replied that if Wang Yang had food, he wouldn't share either. He explained that he wasn't Mother Teresa and couldn't give away the food he needed to survive. He asked his classmate not to show off because he had already lost an arm and didn't want to lose the other one. Liu Jiaqi came out of the restroom and complained that it was dirty and had no water. Jin, eating the meat, suggested not to procrastinate and go to bed early. Wang Yang thought that he usually seemed slow and stupid, but now Jin looked threatening. When complete darkness fell, Jin heard some sound and felt someone's hand sliding down his body. He jumped up sharply from the bed, waking up his classmate. The latter was displeased and thought Jin was sleepwalking, but Jin said that someone touched him. At that moment, Liu Jiaqi also woke up and asked what happened. Then Jin asked if she was doing something. Liu Jiaqi replied that she had been sleeping the whole time. The young man thought that was strange, but then Wang Yang yelled that Jin was touching him and called him a pervert. Wang Yang would have understood if it was Liu Jiaqi, but to be touched by Jin? The young man said that he didn't touch him, and Wang Yang didn't understand. Whose hand was that? Just then, a horrible ghost appeared from under the blanket and decided to feast on human meat. Wang Yang was frightened by the ghost that crawled out from under the blanket. The girl didn't understand what was going on. The ghost wanted to attack the young man, but Jin kicked the monster with his foot, and the monster fell to the ground. Puzzled as to how he was in the room, Wang Yang remembered that it was forbidden to go out after 12 o'clock. He asked Liu Jiaqi if she had opened the door. The girl replied that after she ate, she threw the trash into the doorway, so she had to open a small gap. Wang Yang got angry again and called the girl stupid as if she had been hit in the head by a donkey. Liu Jiaqi apologized for her mistake. At this moment, the monster thought he was invited and stuck out his tongue, not seeing the decent hospitality. It decided to eat everyone in the room, and the first in line was Wang Yang. The monster pulled its tongue towards him to savor the flesh. At this moment, Jin activated his special skill and saw the ghost information. It was the phantom of a decapitated man who had attempted to commit indecent acts against a girl while alive, but was stripped of his head. It required a bloody battle axe or a red dragon to restrain it. The young man remembered that he had a red dragon. When the phantom pulled Wang Yang, Jin said that he had something more interesting than this underdog and asked if he wanted to see it. He jumped up from the bed, rushed over to the ghost, and put a blood dragon-shaped pad on its face. The ghost immediately started to disappear and let Wang Yang go. When it was over, Wang Yang didn't realize what that thing was. Was it really a bloody tampon? He asked the girl for one, since the effect of it was quite good. The girl was embarrassed, for if she had such things, she wouldn't give anything away. But Wang Yang asked for at least one thing, and was immediately slapped in the face by Liu Jiki, who called him a petty pervert. The next day, the supervisor said that they were short-handed today, so each of them would have to take 6 orders. He gestured to Jojo and said that only then would their shift be over. Wang Yang was shocked by the number of orders, and Liu Jiki thought that the chance of making a mistake was even higher now. Jin began to ponder why the inn was short of workers. He speculated that the reason could be because they had been killed or they had become food for the guests. However, he also realized that the security here was really high. Soon, Jin, as well as the others, got to work. He asked the important guest what he wanted. The man with burn scars on half of his body chose fried pork ribs in sweet and sour sauce. The young man was surprised that the guest chose such an ordinary dish and asked him to wait until the dish was ready. When Jin went to the kitchen again, he thought that something was wrong. After all, ordinary ghosts couldn't eat human food. He asked the cook about it, but the cook said he had never encountered such a thing. Having done everything properly, the cook served the dish to the waiter. He wished his new colleague good luck and invited him to come back when he had time. At that moment, the young man thought that the problem was not the dish, but something else. In that case, he activated the eye of analysis. Suddenly, the young man's mind was filled with images from the past life of that burned guest. At the last moment before the explosion, he managed to push the girl out of the building. The girl was saved, but the guy was burned alive, and even after his death, he did not forget about the dish that the girl liked to cook. And tequila cocktail was the drink at their first meeting. Then the young man suggested that what the man needed was not food and drink, but memories. After all, ordinary food had a terrible taste. Soon, Jin approached the food machine and asked the evil device for a bottle of tequila for 100 coins. But he was sure that the price was actually 50 coins per bottle. The ghost of the automaton said that if Jin wasn't going to buy, let him leave. Then the young man declared that he would not buy anything else from this vending machine and would starve to death. Jin laughed at the behavior of the food vending machine. It seemed to think of itself as the master and the young man as a slave. The ghost asked if the young man had a very different opinion on the matter, and the young man confirmed his guess. After all, behind Jin's back there was already a cook who was displeased that someone was hurting his brother. While the chef was dealing with this crook who was taking his money, Jin thought it was a good idea to get an assistant. Now it was time for the meal to be served. Soon the young man was already standing with the roast pork and a drink, which Jin decided to politely pour into a glass for his guest. The man then asked who had suggested the idea, himself or the cook, and the young man replied that it was his wish. The man sipped the drink, closed his eyes, and suddenly remembered his girlfriend and the first meeting with her. She then offered him to try tequila. The girl asked him if he liked tequila, and with tears in his eyes, the man replied, "I do." A passing waiter thought that Jin was done for, but instead of taking a beating from the bully, he gave the young man a 500-point bill, thinking that Jin deserved it. The young man thanked him for such a big tip, and the waiter didn't understand how his colleague was so lucky. Soon the young man noticed that because of the skill Angel's Eye, received the sympathy of a scorched ghost, Powers 3, and his reward, the cursed item Bloodhammer. It was a weapon tainted with dark energy, meaning it would be useful against ghosts. However, the power of this weapon was yet to be tested. Soon some sound was heard and everyone immediately became nervous. They ordered Jin to bow his head if he wasn't bored of living. The waiter greeted the dear guest, and the young man finally saw the half-ghost lady. Everyone around began to give this girl signs of attention. The young man noticed that she had a strong aura coming from her. It turned out that she had become half spirit because of some strange ghostly parasite. Since she was half human, she had no particular hostility towards humans, unless provoked, of course. The waiter who wanted to take her order asked what the young lady wanted. Looking at her, Jin decided that it was better not to annoy her and quietly continue his work. After a while, the young man was already serving another guest. It was a man in a snake costume or a snake in a human costume. Either way, the guest was satisfied with the food, and Jin thought that there was no need for thanks. After all, he was just doing his job. At the moment, the young man was very satisfied. After all, this was the second guest, and the evaluation was satisfactory. If it continued like this, today's salary would be increased. Soon the young man noticed that the ghost girl was still here, and the waiter was kindly serving her food. The waiter brought the specialty of the place, a dessert made in blood-red color that would be perfect for treating the guests. The waiter hoped the guest would like it, and if so, he would be happy to see her again. The girl tasted the dessert and realized it was missing something, and she didn't like dishes that were too sweet. Then the excited waiter asked the guest to wait until he brought something else. But the girl refused, shaking her head. She raised her finger up, and with a wicked laugh, she summoned purple sparks. After that, the waiter's body began to swell. The girl said goodbye to the waiter, who begged for mercy, but in the end, his body just burst, much to the girl's amusement, who found it very funny. Jin watched this horrible scene and couldn't believe that the ghost girl had killed another ghost without a second thought or regret. Soon, he noticed a teddy bear that was talking to the girl. It was a ghost-like teddy bear who was the head of the restaurant and stood taller than Pinocchio. He looked friendly, but it wasn't worth provoking him. Jin assumed the bear had decided to intervene. The head of the restaurant greeted the guest and noticed that the girl was not very happy with the food in their establishment. However, she, wiping her mouth, did not understand what was wrong. Then the head of the restaurant apologized for the current situation and offered the girl a special discount of 50% each time she visited. The girl was surprised by such a gift and promised to come back tomorrow so that the chef could fulfill her needs. Jin thought that the head of the restaurant had decided not to put up a fight, and this girl was indeed extraordinary. The time soon passed, and before he knew it, Jin had already placed orders for 6 tables. He wondered how Liu Jiaqi and the others were doing, but suddenly the receptionist appeared behind him and asked what he was doing here. Jin told Pinocchio that he had already finished his work, and Pinocchio praised him, calling him a good boy. He gave the young man 2 hours of free time and warned him that he could only walk around the restaurant and could not leave the restaurant. Since Jin now had a break, he wondered if this meant that as long as he was in the restaurant, he could wander anywhere. Soon, the young man came to the staff cleaning area since he knew Tang Ming might be here. He hoped to find him, but if it failed, he would be very worried. After all, after that incident, Tang Ming had become his only friend. When he opened the doors, he thought that this was the place, but when he looked inside, he didn't see anyone but an elderly lady. Therefore, Jin didn't understand where Tang Ming had gone. Looking carefully at the woman, the young man assumed that it was the ghost in charge of this building. He asked the old lady what she was looking for. Is she looking for her eyeglasses? Soon the young man noticed that there was an eyeball on the floor, so he assumed that the old woman was looking for that eye. In that case, he picked up the eye and handed it to the old woman, asking if that was what she was looking for. And the old lady confirmed that it was exactly that, putting the eyeball back in place. Damn. She smiled with all her 4 teeth and thanked the young man, which shocked Jin that she immediately stuffed the eyeball into the eye hole. Meanwhile, the young man asked his grandmother if he could take a walk here, since he is a waiter. But the old lady warned the young man not to wander around these parts. Laughing a little, she said that it was very easy to get lost here, and the young man thanked her for the instruction. Going up to the 2nd floor, Jin smelled a terrible stench in this place. Walking down the corridor, the young man knew that Tang Ming was here since he remembered that he was assigned to this area. But soon, Jin sensed that something was wrong. Suddenly, his mind began to blur and his head began to spin. Soon, hands appeared from the wall and they rushed towards Jin. He did not understand where these hands came from, in which case he explained that he was an officer of this restaurant. But the ghost explained that everything here belonged to him, so he immediately grabbed the calm young man, as it was a great opportunity to check his bloody hammer. Well, if you liked this story and want to see part 2, give this video a like and also write the secret word in the comments. Ghost. That way I'll know you've seen this video to the end. That's all for now. See you later and bye-bye.